What's up everybody, LHJ here, and today we're going to talk about 2D Metroids and specifically why aren't they around anymore. I hope you enjoy. Stick around.
The last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
I was 9 years old when I first borrowed my neighbor's copy of Super Metroid, and I thought the game was amazing, but I didn't really understand much of it. It left me with many questions like, what's up with those birds' tattoos? Why is everything so damn creepy? Why can't Metroid crawl? Why is, never mind that one. Being a dumb kid, I had fun blasting stuff, but I ended up giving the game back without having gotten really far into the game. It was with Metroid Fusion that I really became a fan of the series. As much as the game scared the out of me with its pseudo Mr. X-like villain, the Sax? Mr. Sax? I just had to keep going. Needless to say, Fusion holds a special place in my heart, and take what I say about it with a grain of salt. I'll obviously be fanning over it a little bit. A few years later, I played through Super Metroid on the Wii as a Wii lad. I just couldn't stop playing. It seemed perfect to me, even 15 years after its release, which is saying something. This week, I decided to replay through the 4 major 2D Metroids. In the interest of fairness and, more importantly, fun, I chose to play the remakes of 1 and 2 because, let's face it, the GB and NES games are garbage. This gave me a new appreciation for the strength of the series and the specific strong points of each entries, but it also made explicit a few issues that I think may explain why we haven't seen an actual fully new Metroid since 2002 with Metroid Fusion. It's a known fact that as far as Nintendo IPs go, Metroid isn't the best-selling one. Case closed. No, that's a factor, but that ain't it. Nintendo has never shied away from financially questionable decisions when it comes to their creative freedom, so that can't be the only explanation. If they wanted to, they could totally make a new Metroid. Seeing as it's one of the most critically successful series of all time, you gotta wonder why don't they want to make a new one. The first obvious reason, arguably the least important one found in the game, is that as far as the story goes, Nintendo kind of wrote themselves in a corner. The first game introduced the Space Pirates and the Metroids on Planet Zebes, and we promptly kill all of them. And then for the second game, Nintendo figured, you know what would be great for a series called Metroid? What if we killed every Metroid? So that left us with the baby at the end, and then the baby sacrificed itself back on Planet Zebes again. Why? Why the baby? I love you. And then what happens? Oh right, the whole planet blows up. You gotta figure that at that point, Nintendo was getting kinda desperate to find some Metroid to put in, their Metroid game. And so they had basically 2 options. Either have someone create new Metroids in a lab, or pretend there were other planets full of evil 2D jellyfishes all along that we didn't know about. Seeing as the second option would have kinda contradicted the lore of Metroid Prime and not made much sense, besides feeling like something they would pull out of their ass, they went with the first one, the lab options. In Fusion, we find a Fed's lab full of Metroid, which we promptly blow up, along with the space station where any of them might have escaped, and the planet SR-388 where they might have survived. So yeah, no more Metroid. Samus will most likely be court-martialed, but the galaxy is safe from the Metroids and even greater X-threat forever, or so are we told. In a world full of prequels and sequels, where unanswered questions in work of fictions are more rare than good dialogue in Metroid Other M, not only do I appreciate the open-ended nature of Samus's fate in Metroid Fusion, but also just, they don't really have anywhere to go. Literally, they blew up every planet we've been on since the start of the series, and we've pretty much killed every major villain multiple times at this point. So there's no more Metroid whatsoever, and just no way to bring them back that wouldn't either feel like an asshole or redundant at this point. They can't do anything Metroid related before the explicitly named Zero mission as, that's the first time there are Metroids around. Like, that's the whole point. And they're already filling the gap between 1 and 2 with the Prime series, so exploring that again would be a bit redundant. So all of this doesn't make it impossible to write a new story for Samus, but it certainly isn't the most motivating setting to explore narratively at this point. I'm sure they could make a good prequel about Samus' time with the Chozo and fighting against space pirates, or a good sequel with Samus becoming more and more Metroid-like herself, what with the baby vaccine and all. But no matter what they do, the focus of the franchise would have to shift from the titular Metroids. And sure, I hear you in the comment section, who cares about the story of Metroid? Nobody plays for the story. And sure, but in an ambient game like Metroid, the narrative setting plays a huge role in the design of the gameplay, be it in the environment, aesthetics, or enemy type. And therefore, Nintendo would have to feel motivated by a narrative concept in order to come up with a good game that they'd actually want to make. Plus, there's also all the memes about Samus either losing all her abilities for no reason between each game, or worse, dumb reasons like Adam told me not to use them. I know I'm biased, but I feel like Fusion is the only one that actually managed to pull that one well narratively, and it's not like they can do the same thing again now. So hence, that's why the last 2 entries we've seen were remakes, and I'm betting we'll see a Super Metroid remake before an actual Metroid 5, or maybe even a remake of Metroid Fusion, what with that, that little teaser we had at the end of Samus Return. Oh, there's no need to remake Super Metroid, it's perfect. Oh no, sweet comment section, it is not. Sure, Super Metroid is a masterpiece of a game and is still enjoyable to this day, 25 years later. Happy birthday. But cracks have started to appear in what once seemed like flawless gameplay to a young me. The weapon selection system is crude, and often you'll end up doing an extra button press and miss your window of opportunity and have to cycle through it all over. It's not the end of the world, but a remake could fix that. All around, the movement just doesn't feel as tight as it does in future entries. The jump is a little floatier, the wall and space jump window are much shorter. Failing one of them means falling straight down instead of, being able to just keep space jumping. All things that were improved in Fusion and Zero Mission. More importantly, we also need to get rid of the damn quicksand. That shit is all over fucking Meridia, and you can't do anything about it. It's terrible. The only way to get out of it is to spam jump and hope for the best, and you're probably not gonna do a full jump, not get where you want to go, fall right back in it, and be stuck there forever. Another thing that hasn't aged quite as well is the boss fights in that game. Like, a lot of them are just endurances contest. You can spam missiles and, get hit by whatever the enemy spams at you, and it's not an issue. Comparatively, the bosses in Fusions are way more puzzly in nature, requiring precise timing and dodging rather than a barrage of attacks. For some player, the total lack of direction is what makes this game unique, and I found myself really enjoying it in 2019. Even if it's frustrating at times when I would get lost in an area full of goddamn quick.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Sorry, that's it. No more quicksand. A whole lot of fun in Metroid is, gaining a new item and realizing, hey, that thing I saw earlier, I can probably open that now. And when it comes to giving you the opportunity to backtrack through the map while still making progress, Super Metroid is still pretty much flawless on that front. Any issue you might experience on your first run-through becomes frivolous, and like all Metroid, replaying the game is an amazing experience as you realize that what took you perhaps 10 hours on the first time now can realistically take you less than 2 or 3, while still discovering even more secrets. Much has been said about how great the car exceeds in Breath of the Wild were for filling a world otherwise too big and empty with puzzles that gives you tiny, incremental rewards, and that bit of game design is straight from the Metroid book. This is where the next problem arises. No matter how much they tried with Fusion and Zero Mission, Nintendo couldn't top that experience, and it's unlikely they ever will. Don't get me wrong, even with the overly chatty computer and the Chozo status guiding you, the GBA games still weave through their maps in order for you to experience a similar retreading progression. But they never brought anything more to that experience than what Super Metroid did. That's not to say these maps are fundamentally inferior in any way, but they are in no way clearly drastically superior to Super Metroids. By the time of Zero Mission, according to our Lord and Savior Wikipedia, some game critics were describing this series as stale, with the same redundant power-ups, same redundant map design and puzzle design. Including the originals and the remakes, we've been on Zebes 3 times, SR388 twice, and Fusion used a mix of SR388 environments and a new space station aesthetics that was admittedly refreshing. But still, in other words, we've kind of seen it all. As far as the gameplay goes, Zero Mission and Fusion are just hands down top of the food chain here. Either on a first playthrough where you're kind of going slow and exploring, enjoying your time, or if you're just rushing through it on a second playthrough, it's perfect. You don't have to hold the damn run button while trying to shoot and jump at the same time. You can switch between beams and missiles with a simple button press, and instead of, having to cycle through all of your alternate weapons. As for the grappling hook, it's gone, which to be honest is a great decision as it kinda controlled like garbage in Super Metroid. When Samus Returns was released in 2017 after 13 years without a new 2D Metroid, needless to say that expectations were pretty damn high. While we were starved for that classic Metroid experience, the game still had to contend with the fact the series had been slightly overdone at this point, and so they tried to revolutionize it a bit. And while Samus Returns is in my opinion a great game, I have to say it falls short from its predecessors in quite a few ways. We have to acknowledge it's based on a fairly limited Game Boy game, but putting aside that forced linearity and the decision to keep such a limited pool of enemies, we still have some major design issues. In order to make the combat deeper and more technical, Mercury's team added the counter and free aiming, and while on the surface these additions feel great, they both have one fatal flaw. They slow down the gameplay. While previous entries had you aim diagonally or forward while still being able to move, you now have to stay perfectly still in order to aim 360 degrees all around. As for the counter, it obviously requires you to wait for the enemy to attack you. In order to make the counter and the aiming more relevant, every enemy moves around way more and is bulkier. In other words, you can no longer just run and gun them down, which contributes to a much slower pace. Instead of a slowly opening interconnected map, you get a series of elevator-connected areas that you progress through linearly and without any backtracking being required. This all adds up to a competent game that doesn't quite match either the exploration or the action of the high pantheon of 2D Metroids. So at this point we basically have this series where the gameplay, the narrative, and the map designs have hit their peaks and don't have much of anywhere to go. Any drastic difference risks weakening the unique Metroid feel, while the lack of a new concept would keep the series feeling stale. Looking at it this way, I can't imagine it would be easy to come out with an inspiring vision of where to take the series in 2019, no matter what angle you take. Nevertheless, if anyone can do it eventually, it's Nintendo, as they've proven times and times again that they could reinvent their series successfully. If they started loving Metroid in Japan like North America does, that is.
Alright, everybody, that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. This is my first time, so I'm not sure exactly how to do these things. Hit the bell button and subscribe and whatnot. And more importantly, tell me if there's anything I could improve, any other topic you'd like me to tackle, or, just all around your old YouTube stuff. Thanks for watching.